Sansa. It's like a catch-22 for me because I don't really like Sansa too much. However, her POVs get better and better over time, and I don't like the actions of the character. I do like her story, and I think her story is kind of the closest to reality. We have a lot of powerful women in our story, and in medieval times, powerful women were a rarity. So Sansa's story, who she is, how she thinks, and how she was used is a more realistic story. It's actually the most realistic story in the story, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's just my opinion. The little wench still gets on my nerves. But anyway, I did a video a while back on the ways that I think she could die because I didn't see a happy ending for Sansa. I still really don't see a happy ending for Sansa. When I said Sansa could possibly die of starvation, people thought that was the stupidest thing they heard, but they apparently didn't read the books because winter's here. Food is limited and people in the books have died from starvation. The Lady of Hornwood starved to death and chewed off her fingers in the process. But if you didn't see that video, I won't go into all the ways I think she could die. I'll link that video in the description box and in the upper right corner on the eye. This video isn't going to be about how Sansa is going to die, but how Sansa is going to live. So this took me some time. I debated in my head possible endings for Sansa with the off chance that Sansa is still alive. So let's jump right in. So I think there is a possibility of Sansa becoming the Lady of Winterfell. If Sansa's cousin, that sounds funny saying that, but if her cousin Jon Snow is the king of Westeros, then Winterfell will need a warden or wardeness of the North. We already know Bran said he could never be Lord of Winterfell, so ultimately that duty would fall on Sansa, just because she's next in the line of succession. I actually think that Sansa would rule well. I think she did a very good in season 7 as the Lady of Winterfell. When season 7 first started off, Sansa had good points, but she was expressing her good points very disrespectfully in front of guests. So that wasn't good, but that was really the only flaw with her ruling. Most everything else was spot on. She did a really good job. So I could see Sansa being the Lady of Winterfell and Wardeness of the North.
You're Sansa Stark, eldest surviving child of Ned and Catelyn Stark. Your place is in the north.
Women, however, are often used to secure alliances, and they're pawned off on different people to gain allies, food, support, whatever. So Sansa being married to someone, I can definitely see happening. Now, I do not think she will let anyone choose her husband for her. I think Sansa will make the choice of who, or at least it will be her ultimate decision whether she does this or not. I don't think you're going to like what I'm about to say. This first one is quite easily Tyrion. She could choose to marry Tyrion, but Tyrion's allegiance isn't really up for question. But in the off chance that his allegiance was being questioned and they wanted a tighter secure on his allegiance, then I think Tyrion and Sansa is a good choice. Basically, they had a good relationship. He was kind to her, she was kind to him. They got along, and there's no hate between those two. Another obvious choice is Sweet Robin, joining the Vale with House Stark. So the Vale already is supporting House Stark, but that could change at any time. So a marriage would definitely secure that alliance. For the record, I would never wish for anyone to have to marry Sweet Robin. Like, I just wouldn't wish that on anybody. But Sansa actually has a good relationship with Sweet Robin, and she manipulates him well, and just so happens she has about as much control over him as Littlefinger did. Sansa could marry Jon. It's weird, but it's possible. Like, is it weirder to marry your aunt or your cousin? In George R.R. Martin's original outline, Jon was supposed to be in love with Arya, so it's not weird to think that he could fall for his sister that's not really his sister. Those are the candidates that I can see her marrying. I actually think that Sansa and Theon are perfect for each other. They have a lot in common, and they wouldn't need to have intimate relations on certain levels because they've both been so damaged, but I can't see that happening. But Sansa marrying again is a huge possibility. The last thing that I can see in Sansa's future is Sansa possibly ruling the Seven Kingdoms. I hate even saying that, but Sansa is doing well as the Lady of Winterfell. But I don't know if she would ever want to step foot back inside the Red Keep. I personally wouldn't. If everything that happened to her happened to me, I wouldn't want to go there. I'd probably pull a Sept of Baelor on the Red Keep with Cersei and everyone else inside of it, just because I'm petty like that. But at the end of the day, Sansa did actually survive everything that she was put through. She is a survivor. And in my opinion, she's winning right now. She learned how to play and she learned from the best. I feel like Sansa is ambitious enough to reach for power. Sansa has only ever wanted to be queen.
And I'd be queen someday. Please make Father say yes.
Sansa.
Please, please. It's the only thing I ever wanted.
But I'm wondering though, has her mind changed since she said this? Or does she still want to be a queen? I think she still wants to be a queen. A lot of you know George based some of the books off the War of the Roses, and a lot of people say that Sansa gives them the feels of Elizabeth of York. I do see the correlation between Sansa and Elizabeth of York. Elizabeth of York was married to Henry Tudor to end the War of the Roses, basically in a nutshell. She also had auburn hair, and there are similarities from her story to Sansa's story. But in my humble opinion, I feel like Marjorie seemed to get the actual role of Elizabeth of York when she married Joffrey and put an end to the war. I do think Sansa could be our Elizabeth of York, but with a twist. Elizabeth of York's backstory matches Sansa, but I would give it a Queen Elizabeth I finish. Elizabeth I was the last queen of the Tudor dynasty, and she never married and died a virgin. Allegedly. But under Queen Elizabeth I, she ushered in the Golden Era and ruled England for 44 years. Her death ended the Tudor dynasty. So if Sansa follows a similar path, then her rule will be long and glorious. What do you guys think? I'm curious to know, like, what do you think will become of Sansa?